So, I mean, this is the thing with Johnson. Look at this Jeremy Clarkson programme, Top Gear. This is Johnson when he's on there. Looking a lot younger there. But even at that point, former Tory MP and serial Have I Got News For You guest, presenter Boris Johnson joins Jeremy Clarkson for a celebrity interview. So even at this point here, he'd already been an MP, according to this. This was in 2010. So I've actually seen this video. I think I saw it when it was actually on TV. Remember seeing it, unless it was on YouTube at some point afterwards. But you see, even then, Johnson is just, I mean, I know that Jeremy Corbyn and Barry Shearman do go on TV to answer questions, but it's just like they've just got a different whole paradigm of being an MP, a completely different view of being an MP. It's, you know, Corbyn is in a lot of videos and he does a lot of things, but he usually is because he's Corbyn and because he's Labour Party, or if he's helping out with some event, promoting some event, it's all promotion of this or that. He's usually on there because he's Jeremy Corbyn. What I'd say to Ofcom is this, that even though Corbyn has been removed from the Labour Party, he still represents the Labour Party, even though he's independent. When people see Jeremy Corbyn, they immediately think of the Labour Party, but not the Labour Party under Starmer, the Labour Party under Corbyn, or the older Labour Party. So therefore, he must represent something, even though Jeremy Corbyn is not in the Labour Party anymore. Keir Starmer wouldn't have a billboard with a picture of Jeremy Corbyn on it, even if it didn't say Labour on it, or Vote Labour, or even have Corbyn's name on it. Keir Starmer couldn't have a picture of Jeremy Corbyn on any Labour advert now because it would promote Corbyn, and Starmer doesn't want to promote Corbyn at all. Jeremy, he doesn't want to promote Jeremy because that means that it's advertising Corbyn, what Corbyn stands for, and that is to, you know, even if he's independent, he's a symbol of, you know, this is Labour policies that are different to Starmer. So even Starmer couldn't have an advert on a billboard with Corbyn on there, even if he was saying, you know, don't vote for independent, even if it was opposing, because you can have advertisements political for or against, but, you know, even if it was said, say, don't vote for Corbyn, it's still having Corbyn on there. So, you know, Starmer would prefer if Corbyn is forgotten, you know. Corbyn, the appearance of Corbyn is it has a value, a political value to it, let's say that. It has a political value to it by his appearance, particularly when he's serving as an MP, even if not leader of a party. So, even now, but Johnson is, if he was a former MP at this point, and by the way, he's a guest on this programme, he appears as a guest to answer questions and they have a bit of a laugh, right? But he's not presenting. So, and actually they do have a laugh at Johnson, sort of joke, you know, Jeremy Clarkson kind of sort of like, you know, jokes on him and stuff like that. The thing is that at this point, I mean, Clarkson could have asked Johnson, you know, Boris, you know, what do you want to do? What do you want to be now? You know, would you want to be a celebrity or an MP? And he'd probably say, oh, actually, I'd like a bit of both. You know, I'd like to be a... See, he would say that. I mean, you know, if you'd have asked him, you know, what do you want to do, Boris? Oh, I'm here. Why do you think I'm here on Top Gear? Because of fame. I like the attention. I like to be famous and I like to be a celebrity. That's what I want to be. Yes, well, would you want to... You can't be both because, you know, politicians are supposed to do the politician job. If you want to be a politician, you're not supposed to be a famous celebrity or presenter, Boris. You have to take your decisions. Oh, well, you know, it's illegal. Oh, you know, it's criminal. Oh, well, that's all right. I'll do both then. Oh, you want to be a criminal then? Yes. Oh, yes. I'd like to be a criminal because I like to do things that are illegal and that I can't do. You know, this is it. You know, these certain people clearly, I mean, slightly less Cameron, but still most of the Tory MPs, you know, I mean, you don't really see many members of the House of Lords. I mean, that Baroness Hui was on GB News quite a bit as a guest. You don't see too many members of the House of Lords. They're on the, Baroness M yachts and wherever, or their Lord Hanningfield pops up in the news if he's done something naughty. The Lords kind of keep a low profile, even though, they've got more prestigious position. Some of them are in the limelight, but not necessarily anything in the same. In fact, Johnson may well be. I mean, probably Winston Churchill, it was only because of the war when they used his name, and that was all political. Johnson's probably exceeded Winston Churchill in the fame category, other than the fact that they kind of needed to use Churchill, to compel people for the war, And that wasn't in particularly voting for one party or another party. It was the whole of Britain united. Following, this leader and his name, it was meant to, that was political for war, really, to get everyone's spirit up, to unite. And then we ended up getting, diminished the Churchill after that. It got, buried. So, here, Johnson, clearly, right from the start, it's all, he doesn't want to be an elected MP and go into Parliament and debate things and then go see his constituents, do things for the country. He wants to get into television and being famous. Now, if he wanted that, why didn't he just, be like Clarkson from the start? Because you're not meant. The job is not supposed to be both of those things. You get some. You have to. Get some sort of attention for being an MP. But look at Barry Shearman. He relatively keeps quite a very, very low profile, particularly in his local area. And nationally, he's a completely different type of MP. Not that I'm not a fan of Barry Shearman, because I think that he's completely obliterated and ruined our area. But he definitely is nothing like Boris Johnson, that is for sure. But for me, though, this really does take the trophy for Johnson when it comes to Ofcom. Because the thing is, right, that when it comes to Ofcom, MPs not supposed to be trying to get you to vote for political parties or in referendums or for themselves or whatever, when that's why they're not supposed to present. That's the principle. And it says elections and referendums because that's a period of voting. But even for themselves, they're always really an advocate for themselves to get elected next time. Now, the thing is, I've actually used the example of the Alex Salmond and Miliband advert where they put it in your pocket. It does say vote Conservative in the top corner, but it probably didn't need that. It's just a photo of them. It doesn't really need any words or sound. And I've used that as an example in one of the latest tracks that I've done, kind of like a Sex Pistols spoof on This Is Not a Love Song. But I've just I decided to put just Jacob Rees-Mogg because it's himself, right? And he's he's still serving. Elected, whether he's running for election or elected, and he still represents the Conservative Party all the time while he's an elected Conservative MP, and that will be for his whole party. And it's just a photograph, so it's just him, right? And he is well known. But these stunts here, there's also the one pulling the pints behind the pub. Now, why is Johnson shearing a sheep? What is he doing there? Well, it's for promotional activities. It's for promotion. Now, he's in government, he's the Prime Minister, but this is, government promo, right? And he's PRing and doing all these publicity stunts like pulling pints and so forth. Now, it doesn't really matter whether it is... Well, the thing is, when he's Prime Minister, he's not meant to be doing adverts for the Conservative Party and so forth. He's just meant to be representing the country's Prime Minister, but he'd still do stunts like this for his own popularity of himself. But if there was an election on and Boris Johnson was running for MP, and Lawrence Fox tried to get that elected in that area recently and failed. So Boris Johnson, well, the Conservative Party for Boris Johnson could have quite easily have had this photograph when it was election time for Boris and used it. And I can guarantee you they wouldn't need to have the Conservative Party logo on the picture or even, vote for Boris. It wouldn't have been required. And I don't think it still is required. Everyone knows who their own Prime Minister is of their own country, most people. So this picture, if published as it is at election time in Boris's ward, would have worked to get him elected. But it also is permanent PR for him as Prime Minister. Now, these stunts, they're intended to, it's for popularity. It's called a promotional. It's called promo. Why are you pulling a pint? Why? Oh, come, get some pictures of Boris pulling a pint. So if you get photos of Boris pulling a pint, why? For promo. Promo of something, not promo of nothing, right? So that is evidence that once these people have attained a certain public awareness and consciousness, like Jeremy Corbyn, they become a mascot. They become mascotized themselves for either their political party or politics. Now, that's why they're not allowed to present. Not only for what they say, you're not allowed to say this or you're not allowed to say that about influencing people. It says anything that could potentially influence someone in any election or in voting. Now, I would say that legislation is correct, but it literally, when you go into that, it's like common law. You unpack it in the courtroom. There's a bit of legislation, but the CPS and the police want to get into great detail, and the lawyers, they want to unpack that then they want to start going into great detail about, volumes and volumes and volumes of into the intricacies of it. But Ofcom don't seem to want to unpack what that legislation means fully. And in this modern world, it didn't actually even matter as much when there was only radio, like the wireless or BBC 1, 2 and 3, when you've got, the broom cupboard and Open University. It actually matters more now. In fact, as the media has opened up the bottleneck for these characters, these MPs, this is the problem. The presence of the mobile phone, of YouTube, of social media, it's opened up the floodgates, and really they haven't really changed the legislation properly even since 2000. And what they're doing is illegal. And also they've actually attained more and more fame. Now, when they were politicians, you had to know who they are because it's your MP. You need to know who to contact, but only really so much in the sense of, if you phone BT and you've got a complaint, or if you, if you had a television set, or, you complain. These people were really, if you write into BT, the chief of BT, you know who he is, you know their name, but it's not stardom, celebrityism. And as the television has sucked these people in to all these television shows and games shows, their primary job as MP working in the government, it has been, unfortunately, more and more absorbed into the celebrityism and become more of, for the sake of celebrityism. And that is when it's crossed the line, really. I mean, they are allowed on to answer questions, and they're definitely not allowed to present and guide shows. But as they've become more and more famous, rather than just being, you see, Rees-Mogg has this, they call it the Victorian caricature. Like, some stuff. The operator, please. Can I have the operator? Do. Hello, operator. Can you put me through to Government House, please? Hello, this is Government House speaking. Oh, can I speak to the Secretary of State for Transport? Yes, this is the Secretary of State for Transport. What's the problem? Oh, yes, I don't like the roads. They're a mess. Can you sort them out? Yes. There's no celebrity in that. There is a process and procedure that you need to know you're speaking to get the matter dealt with. It's not for the sake of a plush toy or something. It's completely different. What Johnson and the new generation have themselves become illegal in politics because they are a permanent advertisement for their cause. Now, the thing with Corbyn is that, look, celebrities, they said that most celebrities, if they have like a chart song or if they're on TV, if they don't release anything and keep in the limelight, if they don't constantly release things or do things, and I guess that's like being elected for an MP and serving, it takes about, there's a period. It used to talk about this on the radio, and because all the television stations had surveyed it, and they said that it's 3 years. If they're not relevant for 3 years, they fall out of the public conscious and memory, right? So you do forget about them. But the thing is, I've had the example of Rutger Hauer. So Rutger Hauer has passed away now. But the thing with Rutger Hauer is this. He's an actor. He's not a politician. So his movies, you buy the movies, it's all commercial, right? His movies, films, entertainment, and advertisements for products. Now, he did the Guinness adverts, and whenever you see photos of Rutger Hauer now, he is a permanent, he become a permanent Guinness advert. He got paid for doing that. He got money for it, but with that becomes a lifetime association, and it's difficult to get divorced from it. But also he's known for Blade Runner, the Blade Runner film, which is quite ironic because they've got the Blade Runners around now cutting the cameras, television adverts being on camera, recorded by camera. So, they're calling them Blade Runners, whatever in London. So that word Blade Runner, it's funny because, Rutger Hauer was in the Blade Runner film. Now, the thing with Rutger Hauer is that he's always going to be known, even though he's passed away now, he'll fall out. So, I mean, he would fall out of the public consciousness. He would fall out of the public consciousness, but the problem is that those Guinness adverts, people still kind of watch them, and people still, the Guinness adverts were cult. It wasn't just like some random pop song like Chesney Hawkes. Chesney Hawkes is the kind of character that they say, they're famous, and then after 3 years, if they don't release any more music, they kind of sort of like their fame kind of wears off somewhat, unless someone mentions them. But then when you mention them, they're still got an association, right? So Rutger Hauer, even though he's passed away, when you mention him, you think of Guinness, but also the Blade Runner. So it's almost like a lifetime association. There's something similar to like the Copyright Act in America. The Copyright Act in America, if you create something or design something, you only used to have the copyright on the thing that you'd made for a lifetime. So after that person passes away and dies, their copyright goes away with them, and then other people could use it. That's how the law worked in America until they did this Mickey Mouse Copyright Act, which extended it. And it extended the copyright for longer. But at some point, apparently, the copyright of Mickey Mouse is meant to run out and anyone can use it. That's meant to be what the law is in America. It's called the Sonny Act or something like that. But they call it the Mickey Mouse Act, right? Rutger Hauer, he signed up for that role and he repeatedly did those Guinness adverts. And the Blade Runner is a cult film. So he can't really get divorced for it. He agreed to do it. Now, that's commercial. It's not politics. But in politics, really, that law to say that, no Minister of the Crown or MP or so what's meant to be, presenting on TV or leading programmes when it comes up to influence the voting. And whenever you're talking about politics, you're going to influence the voting. When you unpack that law, it means quite a lot. But at the time when that law was made, what's actually happened in the media with social media and this popularity and so forth, it's actually made it even more important and critical of influencer than it was before. They took it quite seriously that, they weren't allowed to present and they could only go on to answer questions. But now it actually matters even more because they've got more influence than they had before because they've become more famous and because of the fact they've got into TV. So it's actually because of them getting more attention and fame, and they've got more and more influence. Now, the thing with Johnson, like Rutger Hauer, the thing with Johnson, right, is that Johnson has been a Conservative MP for the most of his life, and he is going to symbolise that. Even if Johnson, like Andrew Bridgen, right? Even if Johnson went over to Labour, and even if he had an advert saying vote Labour and Boris, he's still going. Why would Labour want him on their side? Well, he's got the right to join their party, but they threw Corbyn out. Johnson could be so much of a Tory symbol that Starmer might not want him in the party if he's thrown Corbyn out because it would be so detrimental to what the Labour Party means. It could be so damaging to have Johnson associated with the Labour Party that Starmer would say that he doesn't want him in there because it's as bad as having Jason from Sleaford Mods swearing, putting people off. Just Boris Johnson's image would put Labour people off. The defect, he wouldn't have him in the party. So that is really how serious it is, the association where, Starmer, it would be so damaging to Labour that Starmer's voters would leave him if he accepted Johnson into the party because they're meant to hate the Tories. Although now it would probably, now they think they're all in the same boat together. But so, like Rutger Hauer, once you subscribe, really, you subscribe for life. Because even Corbyn now, even if Corbyn, he's independent, but he still likes the Labour Party and he really would want to be in Labour, but he's not allowed in there. If you put a picture of Jeremy Corbyn up all around England on billboards, it's going to make people think of the Labour Party and, the previous Labour Party policies and form, not the new Starmer one, and Starmer won't like it. You don't even have to have any. You wouldn't even need to say vote Labour on there or anything. Just photos of Corbyn on the billboard could be extremely detrimental to Starmer, and he wouldn't like it. That's really where we are with it, because it's going to affect the voters. It's going to affect Starmer. If I go into a courtroom and we get into intricate details of law over what does and what does not affect Labour voting, I can guarantee you, if you had a proper lawyer in there, Starmer would not want photographs of Corbyn on billboards all around England when it's time for voting for Labour or at any election period, because it's going to affect Labour voting a certain way by the mere presence of Jeremy Corbyn. Now, these people have these associations. Once they choose them, like Rutger Hauer, to be the Guinness advocate and to be the Blade Runner caricature, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's even if they change party, like Andrew Bridgen, it's the Andrew Bridgen, the Tory who started, who went to, Reclaim. Now, the same with John Bercow. John Bercow actually was a Conservative and now he's gone to Labour. But when you see a picture of John Bercow, it's John Bercow, the Tory, who went over to Labour. So now the unique thing about these television legislation and laws is that you're not allowed to influence the voters either way. You're not allowed to get the voters to vote for your party, but you're not allowed to get the voters to vote for the other party. Now, if you are someone like John Bercow, then it doesn't really matter. It's almost like, on Batman, this is just an example, like on Batman, you've got the Two-Face character that's split down the middle. So it could be either or. It could be either or people might just give up and not vote. But notice that it has an influence in voting. Doesn't matter for which side. Doesn't matter whether it's an influence for one side or the other side. Because it says an influence in voting. Now, all politicians have an influence in voting, usually for their party, or if people don't like them, in opposition to their party. But it's an influence in voting for politics. Now, this is why they're not meant to be on the telly unless they're answering questions. The programme's news. Okay, you have some political programmes that are for information purposes to update you on what's happening and so forth. When you have television, it is... The news covers all manner of things, what's happening in London, not politics, news in sport, news in current affairs, news in business, there's all kinds of news. Now, when you get into the political news, it has to go into politics a bit, but it's not it's not supposed to make the public actually have an opinion one way or the other. It's meant to inform, educate and entertain. That's the BBC. And once politicians come out of being there to update you with what's happening and answer questions, there's this voting thing. But the thing is, when it's like, the head of British Telecom is on the television and, well, what's happening with the phone lines? Oh, we've got a problem with them. It's not actually advocating you to, leave BT, although if there's a problem with BT, it might make you think that you want to, go on to Sky. But this is the thing, you have to be very careful, because if there's a problem with the BT lines and he's asking questions and everybody thinks they're going wrong, you might end up, ditching your BT license and going over to Sky, right? So you got to be very careful. Now, the problem with these celebrities is that when it comes to elections and making decisions in voting, it's mainly based on what you call these policies. But it's gone beyond that now, because they're so much they're now it's not, the grey man in the suit, John Major is just grey, spitting image puppet. It's beyond that. They've become like caricatures, like Mickey Mouse, like Rutger Hauer, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and these caricatures are a mascot for their party and their cause and those things they stand for. And unless we complete those laws, and that would, people, all political stuff must be protected online, or else then you've got YouTube trying to control political voice, which you're not supposed to do. It really... They become bigger than the caricatures have become bigger, really, than the parties or the politics in a way, which is what Starmer's name's meant to be. Well, find me a star. Oh, he is one Starmer. This is it. Now, but Johnson is running promo on the merit of not even a political statement, not even a slogan, not even music. Merely him himself appearing in a photograph. Him. There's Boris shearing a sheep. There's Boris pulling a pint. It's like Mr. Ben. It doesn't matter what he's doing. I mean, he could be standing there in a sheepskin jacket. He could be standing there in his Union Jack boxer shorts. At the end of the day, what is this advert doing? It's promoting Boris. This is promoting Boris Johnson and what he stands for, and you don't need any words on there. You don't need any music. It's a picture of Boris. It's like Boris that's standing at a bank machine. It's Boris shearing a sheep. So he's become the mascot. And that doesn't fade straight away. And it probably won't, like Rutger Hauer. So once you've made that choice to go into politics, when you get a fork in the road, right, you got to choose which fork you want to go down. And Johnson didn't want to choose a fork in the road to go down. Not like in the sort of way that Jeremy Corbyn and Barry Shearman and other MPs have done. Johnson wanted to put one foot on the left track of the path and one foot on the right track of the path. Johnson stood at the signpost and he said, do you want to go left here on a political career or right on a celebrity career in television and presenting and being famous? And Johnson didn't want to choose. He wanted both. So he pulled his trousers up and he started stretching his legs and he proceeded to step on both paths, and he got bigger and bigger and bigger, like in Alice in Wonderland, when he's got one foot walking on the left path and one foot walking on the right path, rather than Jeremy Corbyn and Barry Shearman chose one path, politics, and Jeremy Clarkson chose the other path to be a celebrity on television. Politicians aren't meant to be celebrity TV personalities. And Johnson got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, like Alice in Wonderland, walking down both paths until he got too big. And this is the problem. And now he's stuck on the patch of grass in between, shearing a sheep, and he's off-road. He's off the track. He's illegal. That's what he wanted to. He couldn't decide, and this is the problem now. And the social media kind of liked it, and the paths have widened and got maybe merged. That many people were coming to look at the spectacle, and it's offside. There's an offside rule in football, and the media almost have had a party and a fair out of it, and there are no paths anymore, but yet we've still got this legislation which tells you what the paths are, and unfortunately these characters have got so big that then even if anyone could see where the paths are meant to be. Even if you could see where the paths are meant to be, like, this is where the edge of the path used to be, and this was a nice normal path for MPs, what they can do and what they can't do. They themselves have got so big that they're straddling the paths, straddling the legal boundaries, because their influence has now expanded because of the fame they've got. And the paths not being kept neat and tidy, even though the legislation's the same. And you've got a problem because not only, now they are managing to, the gravity of them, the immense behemoth gravity of these people is affecting people in voting. And also the legislation was concise, but for what the legislation accounted for, they wouldn't have been breaking the law as much before going on TV. But because they've gone so big, the gravity of them breaks the law when they're doing what they normally would do, even though, the lines have been blurred anyway with it as well, which doesn't help because Ofcom haven't really been enforcing the law properly, what it said on the letter anyway. So it's a bit of both. The people have got too big and the technology has become a lot more freely available. So it's a mess. It's a legal mess, and that's their fault. They should have been keeping self-check, keeping self-check on the laws and, keeping up with the social media and so forth. But because they were getting a lot of influence and getting a lot of attention and fame, they've ended up, becoming celebritized, mascotized, and they like it. And now we've got Jacob Rees-Mogg, who you would have thought was the last person to be mascotized, and he's even arguing, he's trying to defend his position when his position is unlawful. Mogg can, there's enough, Mogg can get elected on merely his photograph now, like this photograph here. This photograph wouldn't require any writing on it in an election or even in a referendum. That picture is enough. This picture of Rees-Mogg is enough. A Conservative Tory advert, Tufton Street, or the conservative national conservatism. If you wanted to promote national conservatism, you could put this picture of Mogg up on the billboards all around England. It would advertise it, and they'd probably do that. You wouldn't even need it to say national conservatism on it. So, same as the Johnson Shearing photograph. And this is the thing. The thing is that, you see, these adverts now, these Tory election adverts, they do say vote Conservative in the top corner, and they do have a little cross. But the question to Ofcom is this. This isn't even a photograph of a Tory. It's not even a photograph of Johnson or Mogg. It is a photograph of opposition party. So that's each way, isn't it? That's either way voting in elections. They've even got photographs of their opponents on there. Alex Salmond and Miliband. So it benefits them for what these people represent when they're merely appearing in front of you with a certain posture. That means that the Conservatives have spent money, all campaign money, on an election campaign merely to see the people. Have them appear in a still photo, in a certain posture. Not even shearing a sheep. It does say vote Conservative in the top corner, but I would be willing to bet that any psychologist or consumer marketing person would say that that advert would still have had the same effect as if it didn't say vote Tory in the top corner, because these are their opponents. And even if you went past it and didn't have time to look at the writing or read it, the main, what is in copywriting and so forth, there's something, what's the main focus of the picture, what's the most primary important thing in the picture, and that is the mocking of the opposition. It's not even showing a Tory. So, if it's a picture of Jacob Rees-Mogg looking smart, and he's one of their key figures, you wouldn't even need to say vote Conservative. It's the fact of Mogg and his posture. And this is the Mogg presence and posture that is on GB News as a presenter while he's serving as an MP, which is affecting the ballots and the voting in all manner of elections going all over the country. So they're not meant to have the position. Now, if they want to change the law completely and revolutionise it for the modern world with YouTube and so forth, but they haven't done. And even Nick Clegg said, the Parliament aren't keeping up with the modern technology and social media in the legislation because they don't want them to, because, if they were, all these adverts that are harassing people, making people have to wait, all this, bossing us with these adverts and horrible functions on phones and being infiltrated by spyware and malware without being given any option, consent, the entrapment of getting the phones and then upgrading them without any choice. Once they get, it's like heroin, they get you addicted to the heroin, You know, they get you onto the phone and then you're independent of it, and then they can upgrade what they want onto it. And if you don't consent, then, you know, you're screwed, because then you've got all your accounts on there or your photos. You're dependent on that phone for your life. They can upgrade it with whatever they want now. Oh, we'll have to listen to all your things. Now we'll have to make you wait for these adverts. Now we'll pay up more, pay up more. That's extortion and entrapment into, that's racket. That is true racketeering, you know. And that is what we're looking at with Robert F. Kennedy at the moment. Mogg should not be presenting on GB News or any programme. No MP should be. And Johnson shouldn't have a newspaper column, particularly while he was Prime Minister. You know? I don't know about Johnson. This is the thing, Johnson going on GB News now. Well, he certainly shouldn't have had a newspaper column when he was Prime Minister. And it's questionable whether the mascot effect is still in full force at the moment. He chose to be mascotized under politics. It's almost like being baptized into the Christian faith. The way I see it, with a proper understanding of the dynamics of it and the psychological influence and effect of it, is that, and you could probably go into rooms 503C762 floor 59 of the BBC building, and they've probably got a fucking expert in it, in psychology, on who, no, you don't say this word, you say that word, you don't say it like this, you have to use that sentence, and no, we can't say, you have to, you know, edit in every exact fucking syllable out of what you say on TV to make sure it's got the right psychological fucking impact. There's a fucking expert in it on the BBC and every floor of the fucking building. They know exactly what we're talking about. Johnson still is a mascot for the Conservative Party. He's been baptised like into the Christian faith. He's been baptised into politics and the political party. Even John Bercow will struggle to remove the baptism for the Tory party, even though he's joined Labour. It's almost like, you know, being a sheep with two different tags on. You know, he's got two tags now. Has John Bercow. He's still got his Tory tag on, which, you know, hasn't quite faded off, and he's still got his now he's got his new Labour tag. But it doesn't matter, because it's either or. As long as it's politics. Can this person influence people in politics by merely appearing? Yes. It's Alex. I mean, to the extent that they've even got the people from the opposite party as the main focus of their adverts, because it helps them when their opponents appear. This is political influence either way. And this is where Ofcom need to probably go to room 503C67B of the BBC and get some fucking advice. In fact, they've probably been advising them the whole time, which is why we've got the problem. We need competent people, and this is not just, you know, the select committee guy who's meant to be the expert on it all, who's a media guy himself, pointing things out to Ofcom, when, you know, he didn't point out that it doesn't actually say in the law, in that Referendums Act, whether or not, what type of programme it is. It's actually irrelevant what type of programme it is. It's to do with what you say, or what you do, or who you are. You're an elected MP, and what your influence is. And if you want to unpack that act and get real and actually get to the real influence and what it is, and get into the legislation with some professional lawyers and get it unpacked, you will find that this is where we are with it now. Merely their opponents appearing in a still photograph has the desired effect enough. And merely Johnson shearing a sheep or pulling a pint or even going jogging in the newspaper. In fact, when they film about Johnson jogging, those newspapers are meant to be independent. But they're almost like, you know, it's almost like they're getting free Tory adverts now from filming Johnson jogging. You know, he goes out to do a promo, which is an intended planned promo, which will have a promo effect. Oh, he's Boris Johnson. He's the greatest campaign manager in the world. He's a great campaigner. He's Boris. You know, quasi quatang. You know, that merely to film Boris Johnson shearing a sheep or holding a frozen fish up or pulling a pint is outstanding world-class promo, or even showing their opponents in a particular position. So these are the things that they are using to influence voters at the highest level, world-class level of political voter influence. So if this is evidence of what they're doing, well, the newspaper's a private newspaper and it's following them around, filming them and taking photos. So it's almost like they've got the newspapers, a private company's permanent advert for them when they're going around filming Johnson jogging. And then Ofcom patting Rees-Mogg on the back, saying he's doing a great job, when he might as well be on this advert. In fact, if it's the opposition, it might as well now be Tice's advert. It's a good advert for Tice, having Jacob Rees-Mogg unlawful in GB News. You know, this is the thing. It might help out Jeremy Corbyn. You know, Jeremy Corbyn and Barry Shearman, the well-behaved MPs. You know, look, it's a great PR stunt. You know, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn could afford a better advert than to bang Rees-Mogg on GB News. Look at this criminal, you know. Might as well be a good advert. Jeremy Corbyn, if Jeremy Corbyn won the lottery, he could be his new campaign poster. Just have a picture of Jacob Rees-Mogg on GB News and every billboard saying criminal next to it. You know? This is a problem.